I'm Austin Wessel. I'm a Senior Enterprise Customer Success Manager here at Lytho, and I get to be the host for today's panel on Creative Analytics in Action. You're already using the chat, so that's awesome. You see that that's there, but we do also have a Q&A box. So as we move forward here, if you've got questions that pop up, burning questions, use that Q&A box for those, not the chat. It's easy to get lost in the chat. So make sure you're using that Q&A, but do engage with the chat. We want to see comments. We want to hear from you as things move forward. So don't be shy to use the chat. Just if you got specific questions, make sure to use that Q&A box. Also, we are recording today's session that will be sent out within the next couple of days after we are done here to everybody who's registered. So again, good morning, welcome. And with that, we're going to talk real quick about something you've probably heard about, but you're going to hear about it again, Lythopia. So we've got Lythopia coming up August 12th and 13th at the beautiful Renaissance North Hills in Raleigh. If you've not registered yet, what are you waiting for? The agenda is looking amazing. Workshops are nearly sold out. So don't wait, get those registrations in. We would love to see you there. We're very excited to be in person again this year. And there's going to be a lot of great content. We've got a couple of our panelists who are on here today who have already registered. So we're excited to see them there too. And you could even show up and like ask for an autograph or something. I don't know. They're like Lytho famous at this point. So we do have an awesome panel that we're looking forward to here. We know that for creative and marketing teams, success isn't just about hitting deadlines or launching campaigns. It's about showing that real value of creative work. So that means going beyond reports and really understanding where your workflows are breaking down, how your content performs, and how creative efforts support broader business goals. And today's conversation is all about that. You're going to hear directly from practitioners who are using creative analytics, like the new Lytho Insights tool, not only to visualize their creative operations, but really to drive efficiency, improve collaboration, and speak the language of leadership. So let's meet them. We've got Holly Sayer, Creative Director from MilliporeSigma, Emily Blake, Executive Director of Project Management from the Purdue for Life Foundation, Jeremy Kantner, who is the Design Manager at Penn Entertainment, and they're each going to introduce themselves here in just a second. And then again, myself as the facilitator today. So let's get to it. So let's kick it off here. We're going to have Holly start us off. Holly, if you could just tell us a little bit about your organization, your role, and then kind of a general overview of your analytics strategy.
Sure. Like you said, my name's Holly Sayer. I work for MilliporeSigma, which is a life science business of Merck KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany. I work with many brilliant people in the science industry. So really understanding data is important for that audience, and being able to back up our rationales is really critical. So when we're making business decisions, our strategy really relies on data. I work with marketing communications, digital marketing, product management, and other teams across the organization to really facilitate successful outcomes in our communications. So my role is in campaign development, working on creative assets, asset management, and delivery, and all of those kind of facets to help them perform their best work in their communication strategies.
Very
That's
cool.
a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. We're so glad to have you on here today. And I know you've got some great things to share a little bit later. Emily, let's kick it over to you.
Good morning. Thanks, Austin. My name is Emily Blake. I lead our project management team at the Purdue for Life Foundation. The Purdue for Life Foundation exists to help everyone who loves Purdue stay connected, get involved, and give back. I lead our project management team, which is a small but mighty team of 2. We work with 28 rock stars on our marketing communications team, doing everything from writing, design, web, social media, photo, video. And we serve as an in-house Marcom team for our Purdue for Life staff of just over 300. And all the work that we do supports our alumni base of more than 600,000 living alumni. I am a 2009 Purdue grad myself, so all of this work is very near and dear to my heart. And yeah, happy to be here this morning to talk about our metrics and kind of how that shapes the work that we do.
Very cool. Emily, you did send us some screenshots of some of your dashboards. Do you want to just talk through those super quick here?
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess just high level here, one thing to know about our organization within Litho is that we do require time tracking to close out tasks. So, a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about involve hours logged, tasks, that kind of thing. So, we do that as not a way to be big brother or very micromanagey, but really just to be able to pull metrics like this. So, we have several different weekly, monthly, and annual reports that we pull. This one that we see here on the screen is one of our weekly reports. So it is the new requests that have come in each week. So every Monday morning, I meet with our Marcom leadership team and we go through every new request that came in, just so that the leadership team knows what is being asked of their team members. So if you want to jump to the next one, I think this one is really interesting just because it shows the different request forms that we use. We have several, but there are kind of three main ones that you'll see here in that bottom left pie chart. So it shows which form is being used, and then that next chart shows whether I turned it into a task, a project, a proof, kind of what I did with it when it came in. So I was, in preparation for this panel, really kind of was diving into insights, but to be quite honest, a lot of our reporting still goes through the actual report tab. And I'm just trying to figure out which ones are more helpful with the visuals going into insights and which ones are really just the Excel data that I can slice and dice and kind of keep it in that format. So just a couple quick little graphics there.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for sharing. We also have these here, which, wow. Don't use your scroll bar. That'll get crazy real fast. But these are some other screen grabs from your reports from those dashboards. And we can, if we need to circle back to these later, we certainly can as well.
Yeah, just one thing on those is that the helpful part is that those are clickable in the Insights dashboard. So I am able, if I want to click directly into a project that I want to look into further, that is really helpful. That it's just one click right there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Emily. And last but not least, Jeremy Kantner.
Good morning, all. I am Jeremy Kantner, Design Manager for Penn Entertainment. We are a regional gaming and entertainment operator with 39 locations all over the country, plus 4 different sports betting apps and a social gaming app as well. So we are a very high volume, fast paced industry. My team is comprised of 18 graphic designers, including 4 senior graphic designers. We have 14 different brands right now. And like I said, we service all brand marketing requests that come through for every one of our properties and the interactive side as well. So we close on average 500 projects a week and around 2,000 a quarter, or 2,000 a month. And some of the dashboards that I have on here, Austin, will kind of highlight that. So basically what I do on a weekly basis is I'll pull a weekly report. So you can see this is actually in Tableau. So we are on the data warehouse in Lytho. So this actually goes into where our leadership is used to finding all of their data and visualizations in Tableau. This is actually speaking directly to the information that's in Lytho. There's nothing I have to do manually. It automatically updates at 4 a.m. every day. So I'll come in here on a weekly basis on Monday and just say, all right, how many jobs did we do last week? How many rushes were open, which is this projects by priority? And then how many projects were closed on time, which is this middle bar graph there in the middle. You can see how many projects were open by each property. This is not a weekly report. This is just as a year to date. And that's something that, again, with these dashboards, the one thing you're going to learn is it's always changing and evolving and getting better. So we're still working on this. It's a work in progress, but this is leaps and bounds from where we were even 3 months ago.
Mhm.
So the very bottom there is just a project list of all the jobs that are currently open. It will tell me how many jobs are running late. As you can see, those due dates are quite late. So those are things that we look into on a weekly basis as well. And then if you keep going, the next one is going to be a quarterly report. So you can see that over Q1, we closed 6,480 jobs. The average project duration was 9.7 days, and average time to first proof is 5.2. So these are all like really important metrics for us because as we track our SLAs and performance of both my team and the property teams that are the ones that are requesting the work, we really want to make sure that we're tailoring our workflow for both parties, right? So we don't want jobs to be closed late consistently. And if there's something that we need to do from increasing our SLAs, which we've done at the beginning of last year, because we were realizing 25% of our jobs are closing late. So there's something wrong there in the workflow. So because of that, we actually increased our SLA, gave more time for proofing, added a round of revisions to a specific project type. And since we've done that, we've gone down now to 13%, as you can see on there. So, I think there's room to improve it even better, but we're just making progress with the data that we're pulling, and that's how we do it. And
Yeah.
then the next one, Austin, this one's actually important for my team to use. So the way our team is structured is the senior graphic designers actually have direct reports, which are graphic designers. So they can come in here and actually pull this on a weekly, quarterly, daily basis on how many projects were closed by their team members. And this really helps us be able to track and manage workflow and overall job volume by region. We're
Mhm.
set up regionally, so certain teams will service certain properties. So really what we can do from that is quarter over quarter, we can see, okay, is this property running higher or lower? Do we need to shift properties around? Is there things that we can do like moving designers under somebody else because we have a super high volume over here all of a sudden? There's things that always change, especially in our industry with new brands coming out, new properties opening, onboarding new properties. So there's a lot of things that factor into that overall job volume. And this tells us at a high level how everybody's doing and making sure we're pretty even and all that kind of stuff. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, awesome visualizations, Jeremy. Thank you for being willing to share these with us. We did have a question in the Q&A for you, Jeremy. How many did you say are on your team?
We have 18 at total. So we have 4 senior graphic designers and 14 graphic designers.
Okay. It's a good sized team. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to jump into the meat of today's conversation. So thank you again for your introductions. So first question for you all, what problems were you really trying to solve by improving visibility into your content operations? And how did analytics really help you address those challenges? Emily, you want to start us off?
Sure. So we are really working to become more of a strategic partner with our stakeholders and requesters rather than being treated like a creative vending machine. And being able to have the data to back up uh, the cause that we're trying to accomplish has been really helpful. I think in one of these Litho webinars at one point, I heard the phrase, let data be the diplomat, and that's exactly what we're able to do. We're able to come up with a list of projects that we work on that maybe we question the ROI on it, but without actually being able to pull metrics like we do, it would just be, sounds like the Marcom team doesn't want to do the work. Well, in reality, our team has spent X number of hours on this project and the email open rate was this. And so we're able to kind of back up the fight that we're trying to make and really just free up our time to also be able to look at things more strategically instead of just churning out everything that people are requesting like that creative vending machine.
That's awesome. I love the creative vending machine analogy, and I totally get trying to move away from that and move more into that strategic realm as well, and let data be the diplomat. I don't know if she's on here today, but my former boss used to use that phrase all the time, actually. So she may have also heard that from a former Lytho customer webinar. I'm not sure. Very good. Holly, Jeremy, any thoughts from you on how analytics are helping you solve some of those challenges for visibility?
Yeah, I personally could really relate to what Emily was saying. And beside my team also works towards being a strategic partner. We do achieve that with many of our internal clients, our partners. And what I look to with our data is also challenging perceptions, because there's often times where the perception is that this thing is difficult, that thing is difficult, the delivery times, whatever those things are that are perceived problems or perceived, attributes, they can be challenged when you have the data to back it up. So being able to highlight where changes have been happening and what the results of those have been has been really helpful to us in order to show that we're a partner. We're helping other teams as well make good decisions about where is the work, what type of skill sets do we need to have in order to continue changing with the industry, and what type of creative work needs to be done, moving from video to photography to digital marketing activity versus traditional activities, and seeing that our own problem was a challenge that we had to face was that our traditional work really wasn't slowing down, although the digital activities were really inclining. So we weren't seeing a change in volume, except in certain areas, but that didn't mean we had to diminish our capabilities in those traditional spaces either. So we really had to look at the data and see where the work was coming from, what kind of work was being requested, and that we were fulfilling it and making sure our team had the right skill set balances.
Yeah. That's an interesting call out. So your volume of traditional wasn't changing, but the percentage of your overall workload that was traditional was changing because digital had increased so much.
Exactly.
Sounds like you needed some metrics to get to that data point. You needed to know that. Very cool. Jeremy, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's interesting because we had the opposite. So, we had when my team started, they were primarily traditional. So lots of direct mail, lots of like static digital, lots of print collateral and that kind of stuff. And, as we've been evolving and, there's been some capital improvements of properties, a lot of that traditional signage has gone digital. So we've had to figure out how do we adapt the team to be able to leverage this digital content. And fortunately, like the digital tools have just become so much easier to use than having to jump into After Effects and Premiere and all those big scary programs. So we use a couple different tools to help, but we've had the opposite effect. We've had a significant drop in traditional with a crazy increase in digital. And the challenge with digital is the sizes are just so different. It's not just your poster size. Now you've got ribbon boards and LED DAC boards and all these other different sizes that we're combating against, where, some of them are more like an out-of-home job and some of them are you have plenty of time to read it. So it's a lot of that figuring it out. The other thing that I would say, one of the challenges we had when it came to data was really getting buy-in from leadership within our company. So, like historically, we had always done project management and we had InMotion prior to Lytho. And it did what it was supposed to do, but it didn't report well. And it was like, how do you actually know how much work we're doing? But come within the last 6 months, we have buy-in now from many of our senior leaders at Penn, and they don't consider anything a project unless it's in Lytho, period. So we won't work on it unless it's in there. And that's just been the message across the board at the highest level, which has been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. If it's not in Lytho, it doesn't exist, right? Jeremy, you had talked to us a little bit before too about the new Lytho Insights tool and how you've been utilizing that with your team to support your team, integrating that in your day-to-day flow and some ways that it's helped you already be more efficient. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, so the Tableau one that I sent that was on my intro page, that really mirrors the one that we have in Insights. I didn't pull the screenshot from Insights only because I wanted to show the different data set, but
Sure.
like my team will primarily use Insights as their, way to assign work, as their way to track how long something's been in review, as, all those different things that come in from it is like, my leadership is concerned about jobs that are running behind because it doesn't look good on us or the property. So if there's like a lack in communication, if there's something that's happened along the way, we want to try to figure that out.
Mhm.
And the easiest way for us to do that is through the reviews and then the project dashboard in Insights.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
again,
Yeah. Glad.
we're still learning how to use them, like Emily is. So it's still not like we don't have it fully ironed out, but I can see where it's going and it's going to help us down the road so much more.
Yeah, that's awesome. And having them right there in app as
Yeah.
opposed to like the Tableau is great, but that's clicking somewhere else. It's going to find it right within Litho. You've got insights right there at your fingertips, ready to
Right.
check in on.
And just to differentiate the two, Tableau is really there. It's still going to serve a purpose. Even after Insights is fully fleshed out, we have all those dashboards in place. Tableau is where our leadership goes for all data. That could be, how campaigns are performing. That could be how many guests have dropped off our email list. All those different data points that they care about, they go to Tableau for. So that's where they're used to getting their data. The nice
Mhm.
thing about the data warehouse is now you have all of our project information there as well. And then you have all the other stuff. So where they're used to getting the data, it's there and it's from Litho. But the insights is going to be where my team and the studio really uses that data, those metrics to make differences and improve their workflow.
Yeah, yeah, using those on a day to day. That's really cool. Um, Holly, Emily,
Yeah, sure.
sorry, I said both of you.
That's okay. I've really enjoyed starting to use insights at a more granular level, like the fact that I can really quickly build out custom views for particular conversations or for with specific people. It may not show me everything that I want to see exactly how I want to see it because it's part of the system. The idea that it helps me shape what data capture I want in my larger kind of like the Tableau conversation. I have a Power BI dashboard that we're using that is a different view of the data. These custom views really help with conversations on the fly, showing my team where the gaps in the data capture might be. Even though we're not doing like a chargeback model, we do have to capture specific data and we need to trust that it's being captured well. So those the insights really helps us see, day to day
Yeah,
and help us shape the larger dashboard for the future.
yeah, I love that. So you're not only using it to look at the data that it's kind of programmed to present, but you're actually using it to find the gaps and saying, okay, here's where we don't have clean data. Here's where our hygiene has been a little off. How do we go back and fix that? How do we clean that up? And how do we fix that for the future too? I love that. Emily, I know the screen shares you shared in the beginning, those were all straight out of Insights. So obviously you're in there, you're using it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's really just a matter of me trying to figure out which do I need something that I can easily manipulate, like an Excel file, or do I need more of a visual? We do have several new kind of senior leader positions, and they are just kind of new to the work that we're doing and the reporting that we're able to do. And so there are a lot of times that my supervisor will say, "Hey, can you pull a report on X, Y, or Z?" And he'll say, no rush. I just need it by whatever time. And, 5 minutes later, he's got it in his inbox because it's just that easy to pull. And so while I have usually defaulted to actually pulling a Excel report, if I know that this is going to be in a PowerPoint or something, I can actually export those visuals and send them straight to him just to make it more visual.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the speed, the efficiency, And yeah, the visual people will resonate with those visuals. Some people much more than a spreadsheet, perhaps as well. So let's make it a little fun here. So if you could only report on three metrics, only three, what would be those three that you pick, and how would they be valuable to your team? Holly, you want to start us off on that?
Sure. So thinking about this, it's very hard to only think about three things, but volume is certainly key for a creative team. You have to report on what's coming in, what was requested, how did it get delivered. So the volume of work, but then we like to look at complexity. So looking at like the scope of what those requests entailed. So looking at, the duration of those projects, the complexity is sort of tied to those and the number of deliverables. So there's a few different data points that go into complexity, but complexity is definitely something that we're measuring. And then that work category. So we can see what we're providing back, that, what skill sets were required. Do we have the right people doing the right things and being able to react, but also forward looking. So being able to make those decisions on and bringing value to our business overall, because, we are a service team internal, so we have to give those things back. So volume and work category and complexity are really those three key areas.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, we're similar in the one of my top ones would be the requests submitted each week. Like I said, we meet every Monday morning and go through everything that's come in the last week, and that is really helpful just so that if a request comes in that I have questions about, of course, I will ask people at any time. But if it's close to that Monday meeting, I'll just hang on to it and get a feel for kind of the direction that we actually want to go. Maybe it was different than what was requested, but again, being that strategic partner, maybe we can suggest something different and get that new route started right away instead of letting the project kind of build as was requested and then changing course later on. So those weekly requests, and then my other two are monthly reports that we pull, one of which is all of our open projects. So I'll pull that report, send it to my supervisor so that he's got it ready in his leadership team meetings that he's in, that he can say, okay, we have this many open projects right now. These are all of them from your department. Here are all of them from your department, etc. And then also the hours logged, just so that our team can feel justified when we are just so tired and have really been going at it in a particular month. We can say like, yeah, we broke a record, and we never like breaking records, but we do. I keep a Google sheet of all of the ones that I pull. Let me just make sure I get them all. Number of requests that we accept, number of proofs that our team sends, reviews that we complete, tasks completed, and then hours logged. And then we do have a few stats for the digital asset manager as well. But out of all of those, I think the hours logged is the most eye-opening when we see it as at its team level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a little vindication with that, right? When you see, okay, we logged this many hours and we felt this many hours. That's right. That's right. Very good. Jeremy, want to make sure you have an opportunity to jump in there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of hit on mine already, but it would be definitely job volume. It would be project closed on time, and then number of rushes that are open. Those are the three sticking points for us. Rushes, we went from last year having an average rush percentage of 45%, which our standard SLA is 8 days. So it's very short to begin with. And then when you have 45% of jobs that are due faster than that, it was an issue. It was a huge bottleneck. Nothing was getting done on time. The number of jobs completed late was through the roof. So we've completely changed the way that we open projects because of that. Now we have to accept every request that comes through. They have to send an email to their leadership requesting a rush. And then we have to change the date for them. So we've done things to combat that, and now we're down to like 3.5% as an average rush because of that. So it's been, those are the three big ones for us, just keep an eye on. One of the challenges we have is a very high turnover at the requester level. So having to retrain on a constant basis on like, these are the SLAs, this is when you have to open your jobs. We've got a work back calendar for everybody based on their project type that we can walk them through. It's just, we could go through 4 or 5 different requesters for one property in a year. So
Mm.
it's a very high turnover that, we need to just keep an eye on and keep close. So that's why those 3 are the high ones.
Yeah. Well, that's really awesome, Jeremy. So it sounds like you've already been able to use the data that you've surfaced there through your kind of top 3 metrics, and you've made key business decisions, and you've made changes to your process based on the data you were seeing. So like you had 45% rush requests. That's crazy high. And then you're also trying to mitigate this high turnover at the property level. So you created a whole new request flow.
Yep.
That's incredible. So that's again back to that data be the diplomat idea. Like let's look at the data, let's see what's actually happening here, and how do we need to change? How do we need to adapt, or how do we need to perhaps cross train or retrain to make things better, to improve things for our team, improve things for the process overall. So that's really cool. Holly, I think you had also shared with us when we talked previously about some ways that you've been able to make changes based on the data that you pulled.
Yeah, we had with the project volumes, we had the ability to kind of make justifications for the makeup of our team and being able to add team members where we were really needing some depth in our skill sets. So particularly our email marketing is a really high volume space. It has a very demanding SLA as well, and just requires a level of skill set that is different from other graphic design. Our team is made up of a variety of multimedia and other kind of subject matter experts, and email really has a special space at our company. So yeah, that having the data was just give us the ability to express like what we were seeing, where were the trends going with like the project volume and the level of complexity, in order to say, this is what we need. And the company responded. So it was really great to be able to show information to back up and provide that rationale and get our team member hired. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, always great when you can use the data to actually add resources to your team as well. I'm working with one of my customers here at Lytho now on some of that kind of that very same thing, right? Being able to pull certain data points, certain metrics out of the system to show here's how much time the current team is using, here's how much they're reporting, here's how much they're logging. We need more people, right? But we also know that not every organization is in a position to be able to hire additional staff. Sometimes you have to take a look at the data, and I think this kind of goes back to some of the conversation we've already had about changing some process, changing some workflow. Maybe adding staff or adding headcount is not an option. So how do you improve your process to clean up your process, or work with what you got essentially? And Emily, I think you touched on that a bit with that whole idea of being a creative vending machine. Like, how do you cut out some of that work that might be taking a lot of time on your plate when you've got bigger, higher level strategic things you need to focus on? So what was that process like for you all?
Well, one specific example of this is that we were working with one department on a lot of email sends and a lot of custom graphics, custom copy for each email, a lot of time spent on that. And then when we would pull the email metrics, the audience was 12 people in a certain country or, wherever, and 0 link clicks. And so we're like, maybe this doesn't make sense. And so what we did instead was we created a whole suite of custom graphics for these groups that we were working with, created a beautiful brand guide for them, gave that to them, gave them template copy that they could use. And they, instead of going through our team for all of these email sends, they went straight to our marketing cloud administrator and provided the assets to them still with the copy and the graphics that we had kind of already worked on for them. And they were able to get their emails out faster because our turnaround time was about 2 weeks. And with going straight to marketing cloud, it was 4 days instead. So they were able to get their emails out faster, and they were able to bypass our team, which saved our team a lot of time. So that was just one example of how we were able to really take a good look at the hours logged and the email metrics, comparing those two together and seeing like this needs to change. We're also in kind of a unique circumstance with our organization. We're a fairly young organization. Purdue for Life started in 2020, merging kind of our alumni association and our development office and a few other groups together into one. So all the staff came together with different priorities, different work styles, but all now working together. And so we just welcomed a new CEO last October. And so this is really kind of the first time that we have taken a minute to actually look at the work that we're doing, the way that our organization is structured, and really kind of question, why are we doing things like this instead of doing things because that's how we've always done them. And when we merged, it was kind of like everybody was just buckled in, holding on as tight as we could as the ride moved on. We are now able to really our new CEO really likes efficiency, that kind of thing. And so we're able to have the conversation about ROI, bring in the metrics, and then actually take the time to have the conversation like, is this making sense? Are we doing this for the right reasons, in the right way? Or are we doing this because we've always done it and now's the time to make a change?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, back when I was a customer, we used to call that changing the wheels while the bus is still moving. So it's always fun. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. Jeremy, you had mentioned earlier a little bit about getting buy-in from leaders and stakeholders through being able to share some of these metrics and data. How has that really helped you all be more collaborative across the organization? How has that helped just leadership really support your team overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a long road for me to get to this point. I used to have to manually pull reports on a weekly basis that basically just said like how many jobs we closed, how many per region, how many rushes were opened, all that kind of stuff. But until it was like accessible and until we tried to make like key process improvements, there wasn't really a whole lot to do about it because we are the gatekeepers of the jobs that are coming in. So, like my leadership challenged me to be like, okay, if we're the gatekeepers, we can stop the rushes coming in by changing our process. So it's basically, how do we do that? So once we did that and we saw like that data drove that decision, it really started to get the buy-in both from our requesters, which are all the property stakeholders, as well as my leadership to say, okay, these are the kinds of things that the data from Lytho can do, and this is the kind of efficiency we can get out of it. So it's ever since then it's been nonstop. So like my vice president will not accept a job that's not in Lytho. She won't. Somebody sends an email and says, "Hey, can you do this?" It's put in a Lytho request. If you need help, let us know, but put in a Lytho request and we'll get to work on it. So before, last year this time, it was just emails getting forwarded to me and somebody else to try to manage it, and it was just impossible. So that's the biggest way we've gotten our leadership buy-in, to the point of like, now every proof has to be in Lytho. Every job has to be in Lytho. Anything that we do from the creative studio has to route through Lytho the whole way, not just the request, but the proofing, everything. It's also helped us be able to communicate better with our requesters and the property stakeholders, because they wear a lot of hats. They don't just open jobs, they're running promotions, they're doing activation events, they're selling tickets to concerts, they're literally hosting guests at the steakhouse, they're doing everything on property besides opening jobs as well. So how do we make it easier for them and just give them the high level overview of like what's happened in the last week? And they've just completely bought into it. So it's helped us be able to train. We have the support now from their leadership to push back and everything that comes with it. So it's just been a huge change in how we work because of the data that we can pull in Litho.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think it's really important what you were saying there about having that highest level of leadership really bought into Litho, right? That your VP gets an email, your VP says, put it in Litho. If everybody watching here, if you've got any challenges with that, or if you've had success stories with that, drop them in the chat. We'd love to see those too. How has your leadership supported Litho, and how have you seen that make a change in your organization for the better of your team and your efficiency? I think that's a critical piece of teams being successful with Litho, is having that leadership up top, being able to support the team and say, no, this is how it needs to go. This is the process we've outlined. Please respect our boundaries, right? We've got a couple more questions left here, but hey, use the Q&A box. If you've got other questions for our panelists, please drop those in. We'd love to see those. And we'll try and get to all of those as well. Panelists, if you had advice for someone just getting started with creative analytics and dashboards, maybe they're new to Litho, maybe they're new to marketing, maybe they're new to any of this, whatever it is. Maybe they're not new. Maybe they just have never paid much attention to analytics. What advice would you give those newbies? I saw Holly come off mute first.
I try to talk to people and find out what their questions are. What do they think about what you're doing, and what don't they already know about what you think is obvious? It's like, have some conversations with some trusted colleagues to determine what might be considered an unknown. You likely already know what kind of metrics you want to track, project volume, what have you. We've talked about it a lot, but there are things that those perceptions, I think that's just an important part of what I'm doing, is to make sure that what is perceived is actually true, and making sure that the information is honest. It's like you have to rely on it, and that's where you get your confidence, and that's how you build trust with your upper management and your colleagues. So I think that find out what other people think they know, and then does your data really match it? And that could lead you to what your dashboard needs to say. It's like that you have like what you know to be true. The data tells a completely honest story, and so I think that would be my advice to people getting started with what is my dashboard, is find out what it is that you need to tell others about yourselves. And then of course you want your most key critical data points to be easy, accessible, updated, and all of those things.
Yeah, I love that. Find out what questions you need to answer.
Yeah, I would tell someone that's just starting out to just start pulling some stuff. The insights and the reporting features are outstanding, and can pull even more than you would think you would want to know. When I first started pulling metrics to kind of track things month over month, nobody asked me to do that. Nobody was like, hey, we need stats. I was just like, you know what, this is a cool feature. I'm just going to see if I can spot any trends. And so as the months went on, I noticed, okay, wow, September and October, usually around homecoming time on campus, are extremely busy for our team. January and February, before we have two really huge events in February, are really busy times. April's a really busy time. So seeing those trends of the open projects and the time logged and tasks completed, I can say to somebody who's wanting to start a new initiative, like, maybe the fall is not the best time. I can point to those numbers and say, our team cannot handle any more work during these certain months, so let's try to stay away from those. So just start. You'll be surprised at kind of what little nuggets you can pull out and what insights you can glean.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it's like an onion, like the more you start reporting on and the more you start looking for, you're going to find more things you want to report on. So like I wouldn't stray away from starting. I think it can be overwhelming when you first get into it, but you're never going to be done either. So like you're never going to have like the perfect dashboard set up. At least I won't. So I would just say start and don't be afraid to change it and adapt it and just continue to improve it because it's always going to be changing. Your work's going to change, your processes are going to change, your employees are going to change. So how do you make sure your data is adapting with everything else that you're doing?
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you all. I think those are good tips for everybody. Just get started. There's layers upon layers upon layers of how deep you can go with this, and yeah, figure out what questions do I need to answer. Having your leadership present you with some of those questions of here's what we really need to know, here's what we want to see. That's another good way to really get your start in that, to figure out, okay, how do I answer that for my leaders, and where do I get that information? We do have a question in the Q&A that I'll pose to the three of you to see if anybody has a good solution for this. They say, my team has rush jobs, often a social post after a game or a win, that are due within hours of a request. So they often put those in a Slack channel directly with other creatives. Then those requests will be retroactively put into Lytho, but don't consider it as a rush because they're already done. Suggestions on how we get stakeholders to move off of Slack, even for super rush jobs. I got ideas, but I'll see if any of y'all have something.
The way we handle it is we drive everyone to our request forms with the comfort of them knowing that there are multiple people who can access that request inbox. So if somebody were to message me directly on Teams or Slack or whatever, I might be out of the office or busy with something else. And so it's like you actually are going to get kind of quicker service from our team if you go to the request form, because typically if I'm out of the office or busy or whatever, my colleagues that can access that inbox know that. And so they're keeping an eye on things. And so we've got that backup layer there. Not saying that things work perfectly, but and then we also, Purdue the past couple of years has done really well in March Madness. And so we build out all of those first round, second round, Elite Eight, Final Four. Like we have all that built out, and it makes me so nervous to do it ahead of time because I'm like, I'm going to jinx the team. But we have all of that built out, and then I just go in and close out tasks if we lose and we're done and we don't need those social posts or emails. But everything is kind of built in ahead of time so that there is a place where if somebody submits a request, we can accept it as a task, put it right in there, tag people immediately, and just kind of keep things moving that way. So we tell people that the request form is actually quicker and more efficient than email or Teams or Slack.
Yeah, that's great. Jeremy, I saw you come off mute there.
Yeah, it's a hard one because we have some of the same issue. Specifically with some other stakeholders and user groups within Litho. I would say that regardless of if it was already done or not, mark it as a rush because then you can report on that. I think it should be considered that regardless. That's where my headspace goes. But as far as like the Slack channel, I am not a fan of that, but I know it's how a lot of people work in this world. So I don't know how to combat that, to be honest. It's something that thankfully we don't struggle with because of the buy-in we have, but I know other teams do. So
yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that one of the sort of rationale that we also give people to not kind of bypass the system is that there are questions that are deliberately asked in our request forms that won't get captured. Those details are really critical to the channel that you're communicating in. So by not filling out the form, you're missing some of the like core components of a successful, social post or whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're bypassing the form that's specifically created for that channel, then you won't be as successful. You don't want to go to a person who isn't going to ask more questions or the right questions and give you a less successful outcome.
Yeah. All great responses, I think. Thank you all for addressing those. And we've also got some comments in the chat kind of answering this as well. Lynn and Michelle both saying maybe starting a campaign or a project. If you anticipate that this could be coming up, kind of Emily, what you were saying about like we anticipate, we're planning ahead, we're already getting these assets created, we've got it built out if we get there, and then we'll use it, right? So perhaps going ahead and working ahead to have those things ready. When those social posts or whatever it may be in this specific questions case, another thought that came to my mind was having like an expedited request form that could be used, just a very simple request form if you need to track it at that request level, right? That something with only a couple questions, very high level, exactly what's needed, something they can fill out very quickly and get submitted, and you can just bring it into that project then, or campaign, however you want to manage that. Very cool. Very cool. All right, panelists. So what's next? All of you are doing some level of reporting and analytics today, and at all varying degrees of complexity. For each of you, let's just go around real quick. And what's next for you? What's dream state of reporting and analytics look like within your teams and organizations?
I can start. We are in the beginning phases of launching a multi-billion-dollar comprehensive campaign for Purdue. And so we are really needing, with no additional staff at this time. So we are really needing to figure out how to add this new level of work at the absolute highest level without burning out our staff. And so we have got to find a way to move some stuff off our plate because this is very important for the next 4 years for us. So I think just continuing to have those ROI conversations, continuing to let the data back up the decisions that we make to maybe Marcom team's not going to help with this certain project or this certain event anymore because we need to focus on the campaign. So we are kind of we don't have a choice that we have to clear the plate for some bigger, important work.
For me, it's, how do we do more with less? So we're starting to really look at, how we open jobs for all properties. Right now, the request forms are broken out by project type. We are testing a new campaign form with some of the omni-channel things that we're doing right now that could potentially replace all of our forms. So, once we start seeing data on that and how it works, and are we actually getting those jobs done faster than we are within the other SLAs, doesn't make sense to transition everything to that. But the other big thing that we're really looking at is, can we consolidate our projects? Like there's some AI tools we're looking at right now to resize the collateral that we're doing and, automate a lot of that as compared to us having to create 14 different sizes for display advertising. So I think just figuring out how to evolve within the world right now, but doing it because I know we're at a point where it's either we figure out how to be more efficient or we need to add headcount. And, I don't know that we're going to get buy-in for headcount. So we've got to figure out how to be efficient so my team isn't drowning. So just that's how we really use it on a day-to-day basis and future thinking. So
I would say from my team's perspective, we're looking at digging in a little deeper on some of the data points that we have and making for maybe even more granular information easier to access. So we are labeling things a little differently, kind of shifting the data points a bit using Lytho's custom fields and tags and things like that. We're using different tools within Lytho. So being able to see what the work has been, where are we spending the most time, what skill sets my team needs in order to help me and my fellow, the other creative directors and my upper management sort of decide where do we serve our business best is really kind of important, and getting better data is always part of that. So we're looking at granular data points And really, I look forward to having more visualizations. So like even better views in these reports and these custom views and things with insights, and then also in our external dashboards, really just making better use of it. And I would say I think my team do the work when they can see these visualizations and the data for themselves as well. And I think Insights has really helped with that. So continuing to inform my own team and the users of Lytho what's available to them, because it is pretty new. That's another facet. It's like not just using the data, but also showing how others can use the data, really sharing that information with the larger Lytho user groups and stakeholders within my company to help them make better decisions on the work they're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you all for sharing that. And Holly, great reminder there. The Lytho Insights feature is currently available to admins and team members. It's not available for stakeholders to look at just yet, but it is available in your systems for admins and team members. There is a feature toggle in your account settings if you need to turn that off for team members for any reason. But I believe by default that is turned on for team members. So that is that's a good call out, is that not only can your high level project managers or creative directors be the ones looking at this, but your team can be looking at this every day. And as I think Emily shared earlier, the ability to save some custom views in those insights dashboards. You can share those just like you can share custom views in other parts of Lytho. That's a great way to kind of build that view to say, okay, here's what we really want to focus in on, here's what we need to see, and then share that out with other team members to make sure that they're looking at the same data set that you're looking at as well when you're trying to monitor those things. Well, we are 2 minutes shy of time here. It has been a great morning talking to, or afternoon. I saw we had a couple people from Germany on here, I think. So afternoon for them. It's been a great time talking about analytics and insights with all of you. Thank you so much, Holly, Emily, and Jeremy, for your time this morning and for being willing to share your perspectives and your experience with all of this. We're excited to hopefully hear and see a little bit more about all of this at Lythopia as well. Again, if you haven't registered for Lythopia, we would love to see you there. So make sure to get that in. And as always, if you have attendees, audience, if you've got further questions on any of this, feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. They are there to help you solve these problems. We want to make sure that you're utilizing the tools and the features within the platform as best as you possibly can. And if you've got questions about how you need to, modify your process or maybe use custom fields or whatever that may be to get some cleaner reporting, better reporting, we would love to help you with that. So thank you all again. It's been wonderful, and hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.